My name is Shirley Wong. Chinese name is Wong Xiaoyo. I was born in Vancouver at VGH.
And I was born in a city called Gongzhaowan. And Gongzhaowan is like a little peninsula jutting out from the mainland. And I have no recollection of that city at all.
My home village in China is in Toisan. 個村名就係樂龍村 and the number was 49. A lot of people don't know, but the villages in Guangdong province had numbers.
And then we stayed there for several months, applying to go to Hong Kong. Okay. And actually it was very funny that, you see, my grandfather was out in Canada. You know, he had access to all kinds of information about what communist countries were like. So he wanted us to get out as soon as possible. But my father was reluctant to leave. You know, because after liberation, everything was nicer, and then after the war, you know, things were peaceful and everything. So he didn't want to leave. But my grandfather wanted us to leave. Both of them, actually, my aunts, they were already in Hong Kong. So my grandfather asked them to help to apply us from Guangzhou to Hong Kong. So that's how we left.
I was born in the middle of World War II. And during that time, we were not as a child playing in the ground, having a ball, having fun with your friends or going to school or anything like that. We were continuously bombarded by airplane, bombing our house, bombing our ground. Everywhere you go, you get jet plane up there in the sky, and we were diving everywhere, trying to get away.
I didn't meet my grandfather until he visited us on his way home to China. I was preschool, I know that. I was the only one at home because when he stayed with us, he would take me down to Chinatown to meet a friend. And you can imagine what Chinatown was like in the 30s, okay?
My maternal grandfather was a scholar and calligrapher, and he used to live with us when I was in elementary school. So after school he would have me practice calligraphy, and he would sit next to me and watch me write. Yeah. And he would recite classical texts to me and ask me to recite them. And yeah. So I got interested in Chinese literature when I was very little. I was able to recite a lot of poems from memory from elementary school onward. So I was always, very fond of Chinese literature. And then in high school, I started reading novels. I read quite a few novels in high school, hundreds actually.
Mo Zedong took over, and they want to cleanse all the middle class by genocide. No. So then we had to flee. So we arrived to Hong Kong. Again, my father didn't have very much money. His money was no good, they call 人民幣, so it was no good. So he happened to save enough gold and to last us for a few years. He gathered all his gold pieces and he fled the country with us one by one. And there were 8 of us in the family, even though my mother had maybe 15 kids, and I was probably the 12th child in the family. When we got to Hong Kong, it was another adulthood that I faced, right? So we had to chip in, working as a very laborious job, building souvenir things for export and doing rattan weaving, but we were getting very little pay. So again, we went to sleep hungry for the second time. We were once so badly impoverished, my mother and my father started to quarrel a lot. So one time, my father was about to kill us all. He had a gun. He was going to kill every one of us before he left and kill himself. But then my mother slapped him really bad. You wake up, man. This is our life. We have to face it.
But then because of the riot in Hong Kong in 1967, and he was scared, so he thought that maybe it's time to leave again. So, and then he came back to Canada, and then he applied the family over. So my family all came here in 1969. But because I was going to school and I could not wait, so I came first to study as a graduate, as student, on student visa. Yeah, so I came first to study.
So my other sister and I were still living in Hong Kong, and then my parents took our picture and dumped it into the middleman's market for the outlet for matching overseas price to the West. So I was matched with a young man in Canada, British Columbia.
But then deep inside, I always wanted to pursue a scholarly degree, preferably in literature, so that someday I can teach in a university. Because secretly, I always want to be a professor. Okay, yeah. Less than 5 years, I finished my homework PhD program. I was very lucky that when I was at the last stage of my PhD thesis, and there was an opening at the University of Alberta, so I applied, and so I got an interview, and they knew that I was finishing my PhD thesis. So they hired me. That's, I think, was luck, good timing.
I knew the professor at UBC, and when I asked him if I wanted to do your job when you retire, what do I have to do? He says, get your doctor a degree and your master's degree, and which I did. I stayed on visiting lecture for 2 years, then assistant prof, and then 2 years later I was made an associate prof.
I went and studied a BA with my kids. And it was so funny. My third daughter was telling me, Mom, choose whatever you like, but don't choose a program or a class that I'm in too. After I got my BA, I decided, oh, it's time for me to go look for a job. I went to an employment office and asked, what kind of job can I fit in? Would you find me a job? I got a BA in literature now. Can you find me a job? You know what she said? Lady, you got a BA. What can you do? I was in my 50s then. I was so flabbergasted. So I went and get a real estate license, which took me less than a year because I got a BA already. It was, it was a bird course for me. But then at that time, I also started writing as well. right? I said, well, I'm going to make use of my degree. I'm not going to just dump it there and keep on selling houses. So I did part-time in my writing. So I collected about 5 manuscripts. My first book is trying to demystify my brother's death. Why did he die? And I finally found out he was mentally ill. The Red Army was chasing after him. He left China a little late. And he saw all this persecution going around him. And he was going insane. After he arrived here, his mind was not well. So he died. It took him several years to die. But, Chinese people, they didn't want to talk about this. You're mentally ill, better not speak about it. It's a shameful thing.
One thing that my dad forced us to do, and he felt it was so important that he and I went to vote in every election, civic, provincial, and federal. In fact, I knew Paul Martin before he became Prime Minister, John Chrétien. He walked Commercial Drive with me. I had the 3rd highest votes. And so I was given credits for that because I was the only woman running in BC, all of BC. I'm getting to the point where some of my friends are dying now, and some of my political friends are here no more.